Breaking the illusion of job creation. Why India's new employment-linked incentive scheme might miss the mark. On July 1st, 2025, the government launched the Employment-Linked Incentive (ELI Scheme) with a hefty budget of 99,446 crore, aiming squarely at boosting employment numbers across the country. But here's the controversial twist. Despite its ambitious funding and intentions, this scheme raises a number of thorny questions about who truly benefits in India's complex labor market. Issues like imbalances between capital and labor, the divide between formal and informal sectors, and a persistent mismatch between available jobs and worker skills continue to sideline large pockets of the workforce, especially low-skilled and informal workers. What's wrong with the ELI scheme? At first glance, the ELI scheme seems like a bold move to jumpstart employment. However, it adopts a distinctly employer-focused approach by offering financial incentives primarily to businesses, especially in manufacturing, for hiring more workers. While this might sound promising, it dangerously overlooks one of the labor market's biggest problems: the gap between what workers can offer and what employers actually need. Essentially, it's like subsidizing capital investments indirectly, which risks reinforcing the existing power imbalance, where employers hold much stronger bargaining power than employees. This imbalance can worsen wage disparities, leaving informal and low-skilled workers out in the cold, far from the scheme's benefits. The problem lies not just in creating jobs, but in creating the right kinds of jobs that suit workers' abilities. Digging deeper into India's labor struggles reveals a critical skill mismatch. The Economics Survey 2024-25 uncovers startling statistics. Only 8.25% of graduates are employed in jobs that match their academic qualifications, while over half of graduates and more than a third of postgraduates are stuck in semi-skilled or basic roles they are overqualified for. Wage data further underscores this mismatch. Just 4.2% of graduates in specialized positions earn between 4 lakh and 8 lakh rupees yearly, whereas nearly 46% working in low-skill jobs make less than 1 lakh. These figures highlight serious shortcomings in India's education-to-employment system and the questionable effectiveness of incentives targeted only at employers when workers lack the skills demanded by industry. To put this in perspective, only about 4.9% of young Indians aged 15 to 29 have undergone formal vocational training, a vital piece missing from the puzzle. Without strong investment in skilling and training, the ELI scheme risks simply enabling employers to absorb an ill-prepared workforce rather than genuinely boosting worker employability. Another major pitfall is the scheme's bias toward sectors and companies already part of the formal economy. Those registered with institutions like the Employees Provident Fund Organization, EPFO. While this structure simplifies administration, it effectively excludes around 90% of the labor force engaged in informal employment, without official contracts or social safety nets. By focusing public resources on formal firms, the scheme may unintentionally deepen existing structural inequalities rather than alleviate them. This creates a stark two-tier labor market. Formal sector businesses benefit from state support and financial incentives, while informal sector workers remain mostly invisible in policy discussions. Is this fair? The state's substantial funding favors relatively well-established enterprises, but leaves behind the vast majority of low-wage, unregistered workers. Moreover, since most new entrants to the labor market find work in the informal economy, ignoring this segment could undermine the long-term impact of any employment initiative. What's even more concerning is the risk of normalizing what economists call disguised unemployment. This happens when individuals are nominally employed but contribute little to actual economic output, a phenomenon frequently seen in agriculture and informal service sectors. The real threat is that companies might simply reclassify existing positions as new jobs to claim subsidies, resulting in no real growth in productivity or wages. The scheme's strong focus on manufacturing further reveals a problematic assumption. Manufacturing is often hailed as a key driver of economic growth, but in India, its capacity to generate jobs is shrinking due to automation and capital-intensive technologies. Currently, manufacturing accounts for less than 13% of total employment, whereas agriculture and services together employ around 70% of the workforce. By disproportionately funneling incentives toward manufacturing, the ELI scheme risks sidelining large groups, particularly women, rural youth, and informal workers who tend to find jobs in agriculture or low-skill service sectors. This sectoral emphasis seems stuck in an older economic model that may no longer suit today's realities. So, what's the alternative? While the ELI scheme represents a genuine attempt to tackle unemployment, its design potentially entrenches deep-rooted inequalities and fails to address essential worker needs like skill building, improved job quality, or social protections for informal workers. Instead of chasing short-term job creation metrics, policymakers should invest significantly in skill development and education reforms aimed at equipping low-skilled workers with abilities sought by employers. Long-term strategies must also focus on creating sustained employment opportunities that boost productivity, all while safeguarding labor rights and strengthening workers' bargaining power. Employment initiatives should move away from simply counting heads towards promoting equitable and sustainable economic growth. And here's where it gets controversial. Can a scheme that mainly benefits formal sector employers ever truly solve India's employment crisis when the bulk of workers remain informal and underserved? Is it time to rethink incentives that favor capital over labor, or should we double down on formalizing the economy first? We'd love to hear what you think. Agree or disagree? Share your views in the comments below. Aralipsa Das and Ubaid Mushtaq are assistant professors in the Department of Economics. SRM University AP published. August 13, 2025, 01:17 a.m. IST.